So behind me here in Babylon is the place where the ziggurat of Babylon stood.
Scientists have just discovered something under the sands of Babylon that may rewrite human history. Think lost technologies, mysterious devices, and knowledge far ahead of its time. Excavations reveal a city of extraordinary organization, intellect, and ingenuity, where mathematics, astronomy, law, and engineering combined to create achievements that awe even today's researchers. But what about the otherworldly technology? Well, today, we'll examine everything. This was discovered beneath the sands of Babylon. In 1899, the German archaeologist Robert Koldewey arrived at the ruins of Babylon, located approximately 85 kilometers south of modern Baghdad, and began peeling back the layers of silence that had settled over the city for more than 2 millennia. What he uncovered between 1899 and 1917 was a vast, structured, and engineered urban world that dated back to the reign of Nebuchadnezzar II in the 6th century BCE. Kilometers of walls, monumental gates, streets laid out with intent. This was not a scattered ruin. This was a system. The first shock came from the scale. The city walls alone, double-layered, reinforced with towers, stretched for miles. The famous Ishtar Gate, reconstructed today in Berlin, was originally faced with glazed blue bricks, each fired at high temperatures and set with precision. These bricks were not random. They were standardized. Archaeologists counted dimensions, compared layers, and found consistency across large sections of the city. Then came the ground beneath their feet. As Koldewey's team dug deeper, they found drainage systems running beneath streets and buildings. Channels made of baked brick carried wastewater away from residential and public areas. They were sloped correctly, lined with bitumen, a natural asphalt used extensively in Mesopotamia. Bitumen-sealed joints prevented leakage and protected structures from water damage. The deeper they went, the more organized it became. Residential districts were not chaotic clusters. They followed patterns. Narrow streets branched off main roads. Courtyards sat at the heart of homes, regulating airflow in temperatures that could exceed 40 degrees Celsius. Thick mud brick walls acted as insulation, trapping cool air inside. This was essentially climate control. The design reduced heat during the day and released it slowly at night. And then there were the canals. Babylon sat between the Euphrates River and a network of man-made waterways that fed agriculture and sustained the city's population, which some estimates place between 100,000 and 200,000 people at its peak. Irrigation was survival. Archaeologists mapped canal systems that stretched beyond the city, connecting fields, reservoirs, and settlements. Water flow was controlled manually through gates and embankments. But the real heartbeat of Babylon wasn't stone or water, it was information. Inside administrative buildings and archives, Koldewey's team uncovered thousands of cuneiform tablets, contracts, tax records, trade logs, astronomical observations, legal codes. The famous Code of Hammurabi, though predating Koldewey's excavation, had already revealed the legal sophistication of the region. This is where the illusion begins. Because when modern eyes look at bitumen-sealed bricks, aligned streets, and drainage channels, they see something familiar, something engineered, and the mind makes a leap. Could this have been more? Could there have been systems we don't understand? For example, the southern palace of Nebuchadnezzar II covered roughly 200,000 square meters, with courtyards, halls, and administrative rooms arranged in sequence. Its layout wasn't random. It reflected hierarchy. Movement through space was controlled. Power was architectural. You didn't just enter the palace. You progressed through it, step by step, watched and recorded. And then there is the question of knowledge. Babylonian astronomers tracked planetary movements with surprising accuracy. They recorded eclipses and celestial patterns. Mind you, this was centuries before similar work appeared elsewhere. They used a base 60 number system. This is the reason we still divide hours into 60 minutes. Was this then a civilization ahead of its time? Let's take a closer look at the picture, shall we? Pipes, water, and modern comfort. Between 1899 and 1917, Robert Koldewey's team uncovered networks of channels running beneath streets and through residential districts. These were gravity-fed drains, subtly sloped to carry wastewater away from homes and public spaces into larger canals and open waterways. Bitumen, a naturally occurring asphalt, was applied generously to waterproof joints and prevent leakage. Observers sometimes misread these dark seams, imagining hidden pipes or pressurized conduits. Yet the evidence pointed to a system entirely dependent on gravity and careful engineering. Wastewater moved along its path not through force, but through careful slope calculations and constant maintenance. The city's baths and water access points followed a similar logic. There is no confirmed evidence that Babylonian homes or palaces had pressurized water, boilers, or advanced indoor plumbing. Public baths existed, but they relied on stored water or channel-fed basins. Private bathing likely took place in courtyards, where water could be poured into clay tubs or pools, often heated over a fire. Misconceptions of hot baths on demand stemmed from the later imagination of explorers comparing Babylonian infrastructure to Roman systems. What the Mesopotamians did possess was knowledge of materials, clay, bitumen, and baked bricks that preserved water and resisted leakage. Water management, however, was not trivial. Babylon sat near the Euphrates River, but its population, estimated between 100,000 and 200,000 at its height, depended on a network of canals, reservoirs, and drainage channels. Koldewey documented canals that threaded through the city and beyond, connecting agricultural fields, supplying livestock, and sustaining gardens. Even within residences and palaces, what we might call comfort came from design rather than machinery. Thick mud brick walls insulated interiors against the searing summer heat, while strategically placed courtyards and open-air halls allowed air to circulate naturally. Roofs and windows were positioned to capture prevailing winds. Cooling rooms in a passive system perfected over generations. Architectural ingenuity created a sense of indoor climate control and relative comfort that might have seemed miraculous to an outsider, yet it required no secret technology. In fact, the same principles, sloped floors, shaded areas, and courtyard ventilation, echo through modern sustainable architecture. Public and ceremonial spaces further illustrate the gravity-fed principle. Fountains and pools within palace courtyards relied on diverted river water, stored in cisterns or channeled through sluices. They were functional, aesthetic, and impressive, but they operated on slope and gravity alone. Hot water, if used, was delivered in basins heated over fires rather than piped through hidden boilers. Even the famed hanging gardens, whether historical or semi-legendary, likely used mechanical leverage and water-lifting devices rather than pressurized plumbing to irrigate terraces. The illusion of advanced comfort also extended to urban sanitation. Narrow streets angled slightly for drainage. Houses opened onto courtyards that acted as collection points for wastewater, and public latrines, though rudimentary, utilized channels that carried waste toward the canals. Every solution was simple, observable, and repeatable. Nothing required unattainable technology. The skill was in planning, labor organization, and knowledge passed down through generations. Each brick, each slope, each waterproofed seam reflected hands-on expertise. Let's take this analytical approach one step further. Lenses, metals, and impossible craftsmanship. When archaeologists first unearthed objects from Mesopotamia, some pieces seem to hint at technology far ahead of their time. Among these, the most cited is the so-called Nimrud lens, discovered in the ruins of the Assyrian city of Nimrud, a piece of rock crystal, roughly 4.5 centimeters in diameter. It is smooth, slightly convex, and resembles a primitive magnifying glass. But its intended purpose remains uncertain, and claims of optical precision are speculative at best. Glass itself existed in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and surrounding cultures as early as the 3rd millennium BCE, but it was mostly opaque or decorative. Small beads, vessels, and amulets showcased the ability to melt and shape silica with heat, sometimes incorporating copper or iron for color. But clarity was rare and difficult to achieve. The handful of transparent pieces that survive are often misinterpreted. While modern eyes might see lenses, they were likely ornamental or symbolic. So far, we can't prove that ancient artisans could routinely produce glass capable of magnification or optical precision. Metals present a similar story. Bronze and copper were the primary materials, occasionally alloyed with tin or lead to improve hardness, but there were no industrial steels or high-speed cutting tools. Archaeological finds show hammers, chisels, and files, all manually operated, and evidence of heat treatment to harden edges. Smooth stone cuts, often cited as impossibly precise, are now understood through abrasion techniques. Sand, emery, and water were combined with patience and repeated effort, allowing craftsmen to carve limestone, alabaster, or basalt with remarkable polish. In the palace of Sargon II at Khorsabad, walls of diorite and alabaster were carved to exacting standards, but no drill marks, machine tool impressions, or industrial machining are present. Copper chisels were regularly sharpened, bronze saws cut slabs in incremental passes, and polishing stones and abrasives smoothed surfaces. In some cases, craftsmen drilled holes in soft stones using bow drills tipped with copper, combined with abrasive slurry. The resulting holes could be nearly perfectly round, but they required significant human effort. Claims of industrial precision often misread the combination of methodical labor and clever engineering as evidence of lost machines. In reality, the technology aligns perfectly with the known metallurgical capabilities of the time. Even alloys follow the same pattern. Bronze, arsenical copper, and occasional traces of tin or lead allowed artisans to adjust hardness and casting properties. Decorative inlays, rivets, and ceremonial weapons showcase controlled melting and shaping, but there is no trace of modern metallurgical processes. The idea that these metals were part of a secret industrial toolkit with cutting, boring, or shaping capabilities is unsupported. Every artifact that appears impossibly crafted is a result of patient labor, iterative technique, and knowledge passed down through generations. The Nimrod lens remains a compelling case study. Found during excavations led by Sir Austin Henry Layard, the artifact is roughly 4.5 centimeters in diameter and slightly convex. Some modern researchers suggest it could have functioned as a magnifier, perhaps in jewelry work or engraving, but no inscription, depiction, or contemporary text confirms this. Laboratory tests indicate limited optical properties. It can focus sunlight or enlarge images slightly, but far from the precision needed for what we would consider optical instruments. Its mystery fuels speculation, but it does not imply routine precision optics in Mesopotamia or Assyria. Stonework also feeds the illusion of impossible skill. Massive statues, such as the Lamassu, were carved with smooth surfaces and intricate reliefs that seemed beyond hand tools. Yet, modern experiments replicating these methods with copper chisels, abrasive sand, and wooden mallets show that the precision and polish achieved in a decade or more of dedicated labor is entirely possible. The key was organization, teams of artisans working under royal supervision, following templates, and repeatedly refining their work. What looks instantaneous or mechanical to modern eyes was actually the outcome of relentless, cumulative human effort. In metallurgy, stonework, and glass, the story of ancient craftsmanship is one of calculated patience, material mastery, and creative problem-solving. From the sand-polished edges of a Nimrod lens to the polished alabaster floors of Nineveh, the achievements of Mesopotamian artisans were impressive but grounded in reality. There is no evidence of industrial drills, advanced alloys, or optical machinery. Machines, electricity, and the leap too far. Simple machines were indeed present in Babylon. Levers, pulleys, inclined planes, and counterweights appear in temple construction records. as well as in the logistics of moving large mud brick walls. Excavations led by Robert Koldewey revealed massive walls, ziggurats and gateways, some rising dozens of meters high. These required careful planning and mechanical advantage, but nowhere is there a gear system or automated assembly line. The large-scale work was achieved through human coordination, muscle power, and time-tested mechanical principles, not hidden mechanized technology. The earliest known complex gear system is the Antikythera mechanism, discovered off a Greek island in 1901. This device, composed of bronze gears, dials, and hand-cranked wheels, could calculate lunar cycles, solar positions, and even predict eclipses. Its existence proves that intricate mechanical engineering was possible, but it also proves that the sophistication of Babylonian machinery, while impressive, was not equivalent to the precision gearing seen in the Mediterranean world a millennium later. Claims of Babylonian gear systems leap far ahead of the archaeological record. Equally captivating is the legend of the so-called Baghdad Battery. Wilhelm Koenig, a German archaeologist working in the 1930s, proposed that this clay jar, containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod, could function as a primitive battery. Media accounts and speculative books ran with the idea that the Mesopotamians powered small devices or electroplated objects. However, rigorous analysis reveals no residue of acidic electrolytes, no evidence of wiring, and no contemporary texts describing electrical experiments. Most scholars now regard it as a storage vessel or ritual object. The city's achievements are extraordinary, yet entirely explainable with human labor, simple machines, and organized logistics. King Nebuchadnezzar II's reign produced monumental architecture and the famous Ishtar Gate, glazed with lapis lazuli-colored tiles. But there is no hint of mechanical automation or electrical technology. Even the sophisticated waterworks, using gravity-fed channels, siphons, and bitumen waterproofing, relied on clever engineering and sustained effort. There were no hidden motors. The illusion of electricity in Babylonian artifacts often arises from misinterpretation. Copper cylinders, clay vessels, and metal rods suggest circuits to the modern eye, but context matters. Excavation reports note that metals were primarily used for decoration, ritual, and practical applications like tools and fasteners. Cylindrical objects served as weights, supports, or containers. The human brain instinctively searches for familiar patterns, like gears, batteries, and wires. Mechanics and construction, however, were extraordinarily advanced for their time. Roads were straight and layered. Drainage systems channeled water away from homes and temples, and massive mud brick walls were carefully mortared with bitumen to prevent erosion. Babylonian technology was indeed sophisticated, but entirely human. Engineers relied on observation, experience, and methodical trial and error. Even the so-called automata that some authors speculate about have plausible, low-tech explanations. Reliefs depicting moving figures or mechanical imagery likely represent symbolic or ritual movement rather than working devices. For instance, temple doors might be depicted as opening with levers or pulleys, but surviving artifacts show no traces of powered gearing. Similarly, cuneiform texts describing temple maintenance or irrigation detail manual labor, wages, and scheduling. There is no mention of electrical circuits or programmed mechanisms. The excitement around ancient electricity highlights a broader fascination with lost knowledge. Human beings are drawn to the idea that civilizations thousands of years ago might have skipped ahead technologically. But in Babylon, simple levers lifted massive stones, pulleys distributed weight, and inclined planes allowed precise placement. These achievements were perfectly suited to the city's needs and represent remarkable ingenuity. How real ingenuity became myth. Babylon, at the height of its power under kings like Hammurabi and later Nebuchadnezzar II, was a hub of mathematics, astronomy, and law. Its scribes recorded sophisticated calculations on clay tablets, some showing tables for square roots, reciprocals, and multiplication, evidence of an advanced base 60-number system. Astronomers charted the movement of the moon, planets, and stars with remarkable precision, producing ephemerides that allowed predictions of eclipses. These intellectual feats, grounded in observation and logic, often get overshadowed by myths of lost high technology. Artifacts from Babylon frequently draw modern eyes into misinterpretation. Cylinder seals, bronze tools, and metal fittings sometimes appear as though they could be components of intricate machines, but context reveals otherwise. Excavations led by Robert Calderwood uncovered thousands of cuneiform tablets, detailed building plans, and urban layouts, none of which suggest electrical devices or automated machinery. Even the famed Baghdad battery, discovered decades later near Baghdad in 1938, has been proven to be anything but a battery. Natural features of Babylon also contribute to the illusion. The city's thick mud brick walls and strategic courtyards created airflow patterns that kept interiors cool in scorching Mesopotamian summers. Acoustic properties of certain temples allow voices to carry clearly, but there is no evidence that these effects were designed for technological purposes. Water management, too, relied on gravity-fed canals, drainage channels, and the careful use of bitumen to prevent leakage, creating systems that sustained urban life for decades. Observers unfamiliar with such engineering might mistake these practical solutions for advanced or secret technologies. Babylon's legal and administrative systems were equally advanced, yet firmly human. Hammurabi's famous code, etched into basalt steles around 1754 BCE, established consistent laws covering trade, labor, family, and property, demonstrating sophisticated social organization. Administrative cuneiform tablets recorded taxation, irrigation schedules, and workforce allocation, showing a city governed with precision, not by hidden machines. These achievements highlight the intellectual rigor and bureaucratic ingenuity of Babylonian society. This so-called lost knowledge was made possible by careful planning, record-keeping, and disciplined application of mathematics and logic. Archaeological evidence further reinforces the grounded nature of Babylonian ingenuity. Palaces and temples, constructed from baked brick bound with bitumen, were engineered to endure floods, erosion, and the weight of multiple stories. Roads and canals were systematically laid out to optimize transport and irrigation. The Ishtar Gate, adorned with glazed blue bricks and bas-relief animals, illustrates artistry and technical skill, but reveals no secret mechanical complexity. Astronomical tablets reinforce this pattern of disciplined observation. The Enuma Anu Enlil series, compiled over centuries, documented planetary positions, lunar phases, and eclipses with remarkable accuracy. Astronomers used tools such as gnomons and water clocks to calibrate measurements, not electrical devices or powered machinery. Their precision stemmed from careful repetition and empirical methods, proving that Babylonian thinkers could reach extraordinary conclusions through patience, observation, and mathematical insight. No hidden technology was necessary. The city's accomplishments were the product of human intelligence operating at its limits. Even everyday objects can be misread through a modern lens. Polished stones, copper fittings, or patterned ceramics sometimes appear as parts of sophisticated mechanisms to contemporary viewers. Yet these were primarily decorative or functional within a practical context. Reliefs depicting temples, palaces, or ritual activities might suggest gears or devices where none existed. In each case, the original use is confirmed by context, wear patterns, and contemporary texts. What modern imaginations interpret as high technology is instead evidence of creative adaptation to available materials. The myth of hidden advanced technology often overshadows Babylon's real achievements. There is no credible evidence to suggest that history is being rewritten due to undiscovered machines or electrical knowledge. The city's brilliance was extraordinary for its time. Its urban planning, water management, legal codes, mathematical innovation, and astronomical observations placed it at the forefront of the ancient world. Babylonian engineers and scholars operated within the constraints of their era, yet accomplished feats that continue to awe modern researchers. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? If you did, please consider liking, dropping a comment, and hitting the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our new uploads. Also, don't miss this video you see on your screen right now. It's truly unbelievable.